I'm making sure this is working. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. For those that um, follow our ADHD support group, I thank you so much. And I think this is long overdue. And the ADHDers know that I've put this off for so long out of my own fear and anxiety in terms of finally doing it. But I'm the person behind the page, behind the resource, and hopefully for those that do follow it, it is helpful. And the resources that are provided, my hope is to continue to expand that and to continue to grow it with more resources, having more lives with guest speakers, as well as experts, psychologists, things like that as we go, because the page is growing, which is wonderful. And I think it's reflective of the need that's there for adult ADHDers as well as parents. Parenting ADHDers and ADD, and the combination of diagnoses that go with that, whether that is OCD, ASD, etc. So it's a complex process in terms of the background of it, and as well as to live with it, right? It shows up differently for everybody. And I really wanted to create a space that was helpful, funny, lighthearted, and yet resourceful as well. So that's that. And then for those that do follow the podcast as well, that's for company. My very first topic series was specific to ADHD. My partner was diagnosed several years ago with adult ADHD. And like many people, the diagnosis came as such a relief, right? Because there were so many things that were presenting themselves that we didn't understand. I didn't understand. He didn't understand. And you feel crazy at times. You're like, why can't I do this? Why can't he do this? It was the simplest of things. Why couldn't he do this? It works for me. Checklist, things like that. What works for one doesn't work for the other. And it caused so many stressors and issues. And then when we got the diagnosis, there was that relief where it's like, oh my gosh, okay, like we're not crazy. But then from there, it was kind of like, well, we have this now, which is great. But where do we go from here? And at that time, several years ago, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to go for supports, and the supports that I could get access to, I couldn't afford, or they just weren't resonating with me or with him, and it just wasn't a good fit. And I felt like it was more limited. People didn't get it. People didn't understand. I work in education, and my vast knowledge of ADHD at that time was okay, well, you can't sit still. So what? Right? Like it was so limited in so many ways that I didn't know where to go with it. So that's how the page kind of came to be. And that's actually what inspired the very first topic series of the podcast. So from there, it's kind of grown. Now, fast forward, oh my God, several years now. And I have received my own diagnosis of ADHD, which at first I was so offended by, which is looking back hilarious. Um, because again, I'm so well versed at this point, no expert by any stretch of the imagination. Um, but I have a lot of knowledge and understanding, at least I thought I did, of ADHD between my family, between my colleagues in terms of my professional environment and where I work, as well as my home life. And I was connected with our psychologist, and she blatantly just came right out and told me, "You know, you have it too, right?" And I remember just looking at her and being so taken back, like, "No, I don't." My whole relationship with my husband, it has always been, I'm the organized one. I like things a certain way. I can handle it. I can do this. Okay, he can't do. Okay, so like he's not organized. He doesn't do well with paperwork and things like that. So I can sort of take that on and I can do that. So because of that, I never had this sort of scope or introspection to point the lens at me at all. Right. I was just so busy trying to do all the things myself as well as kids and work and making sure things were on time and getting done, that I never took the time to change the lens to myself. And when someone else did that, I was so taken back, and it just didn't make any sense. Absolutely no way. And then within a few minutes, I just started crying because I'm like, I actually think so. But because again, it just shows up so differently than my partner as well as other people I'm around, that I just never thought that it could possibly be. But the more and more I kind of dove into it since and really recognize my own idiosyncrasies and my own tendencies, um, it makes a lot of sense. And then ever since then, it because I'm so much more aware of it, it shows up all the time. So now with our children, which sort of become conversation pieces within the family, it's very understood and recognized. And when I'm in the kitchen and I have started 4 different projects in 4 different sections of the kitchen, and my son, who's been waiting for the apple slices for half an hour, comes over to me and like puts his hand on my arm and says, "Mom, the apple slices." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, but buddy, I'm so sorry. Yes, okay, like I forgot." He's like, "That's okay. I'm gonna help you." And he'll stand beside me and wait and watch me go to the fridge, take out the apple, wash it, chop it up, and stay by my side the whole time, because he knows that if he doesn't do that, mommy just might get lost in another something she has to do and completely forget. So the more open and honest we are about that, I think the more comfortable it becomes, the more grace we sort of leave ourselves with. And the more understanding I think we sort of create in our own families and our own dynamics. And that has taken years just to get to this point where it's not so hard to accept, if that makes sense. Like personally, as a parent, right? We are the hardest on ourselves. We carry the most shame and the most guilt when we forget things or get sidetracked or get distracted. Um, so the more aware we can become and the more open and honest we can have about those conversations, accountability, I think, is the key. It's the key to all of it. If we can be accountable while still holding space for understanding and grace for ourselves as well as others, I think that's really what makes all the difference within our relationships as well. There's gonna be mess ups that we make, ADHD, AD or not, right? I mean, we're human, so um, but having that accountability, I think, is what makes it. It's what keeps us transparent. It's what keeps us authentic to who we are. Because I think who we are, anyone that has close relationships with ADHDers know how fun we are, charismatic we are, loving and caring we are, creative. We see things differently, we approach things differently, which is, I think, part of our pull in terms of the world. And um, I think that's why, not to toot our horn, but I think we're pretty great, if that makes sense. But the other side to that is that we come with stipulations, as we all do, and that's okay. And about finding the right support systems and networks for ourselves, putting us in situations and environments that are supportive, and hold us accountable, while, like I said, holding space for grace and understanding as well. And if we can feel that and create that, then we teach that to our kids. And that there's nothing like having kids that just they're just, I call them highlighters. They are the highlighter of our own best qualities and worst qualities. You just have a child and you get to see all of that of yourself in another person. And there's just nothing like them. They're just to remind you of your best and worst. But if we can hold space and sort of have that awareness for ourselves and just imagine what we can kind of create for them. So that is something that I hope the page will continue to do. And our podcasts are the next topic series for our podcast. We're going back to ADHD. We're just flipping it around a little bit because my approach to it is going to be completely different now that I have my own diagnosis. Um, so talking about women and relationships and sort of how it looks in it in or how it shows up, I should say. Um, it shows up a little bit differently as it would for anybody. Talking about parenting and ADHD, we have a couple experts coming on that I am so excited to share, and I'm going to put them on the page. I hope to do some more lives with them actually, because they're amazing and they're just they've created businesses and lifestyles and spaces that I think are so amazing and so authentic and so resonant and helpful. So they're coming on in the next couple of weeks. I just had an interview with Melissa Orloff. I spoke about Melissa in the first topic series, actually. And she's amazing. And she's a relationship expert for ADHD. Whether ADHD is in both partners or just one, and the dynamics of how it can show up, the challenges that can happen because they're common. And as soon as we have that understanding, it makes all the difference. It really does. So she's also coming on, as well as we updated our book list for this year on the podcast's website. And her book is also on there, as well as some other great reads that I think will be really, really helpful. So my hope is that as we continue to grow the page, I come on a bit more and hopefully create more resources for everyone, and create more interaction and connection and community, because I think that's what we need. I think we all need that regardless. But in our ADHD community, the more we stay connected, I think the stronger we become. Um, so that is my true hope moving forward, that I hope you guys will tag along the journey on with me. um, and yeah, and I hope to always be open to feedback. That's a big thing for me, is taking feedback in a positive way and using it as fuel to keep growing and learning and developing. And hopefully this page will really be something for people, as it wasn't for us at the time. And when you can't find what you need, you create it, you make your own. And so I hope this is going to really help people. And I've actually gotten several messages, and messages that are just warm-hearted, as well as questions and ideas, which have been super helpful and actually helped pave out what this next series will look like. And even bringing on these guests were sort of inspired by the questions and comments and messages that I have been getting. So I absolutely love it. Keep them coming. Check out the page every now and again, and hopefully you'll find what you need. Check out the podcast in the next couple of weeks, because the experts coming on, I think are really going to be fantastic, and hopefully you guys get a lot out of them. So I'm going to wrap it up. And thank you again very much for your support, and we'll talk soon.